Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Simply for Wellness. I am your host, Bridget, and today we're going to be talking about communication. Okay guys, you already know what it is. We're going to get into our weekly recap. Well, my weekly recap. Oh my God, guys, what a week it has been, I have to say. Like since I've been back on, content creating and being back on my podcast, so much has been happening. I've been getting a lot of PR boxes from brands, and I had to catch up on the content and making sure I'm posting it on time, make sure I'm editing on time. Literally so much has happened in between. I lost a package and all of that nonsense has happened. But, it's been a very productive, busy week. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to work with brands in the first place. So all I can say is that although this week was very busy and although I was very tired, I'm not gonna lie, I was very tired. I'm still very tired because I literally just got out of work and not too long ago. But, I'm here making this content, making this promise to myself and to you guys, to stay consistent as much as possible. Try to be consistent as much as possible because, this means a lot to me. I know you guys support me as well. And I know this means a lot to you as well. So yeah, definitely a lot of content creating. I don't know if you guys know, I am a Leo. So my birthday is coming up in August 16. And I've been super overwhelmed thinking about my birthday, planning my birthday, because as a Leo, I'm very extra and, I like my birthday to be, perfect. It doesn't always work out that way. Let me tell you, something's always happening. But, this year I'm turning 25, that big 25 number. And I just want it to be very special, which I know is going to be very special, but just the planning part and finding what to wear is just the annoying part. But I basically have a plan of what I want to do, basically an itinerary of what I want to do for my 25th birthday. Definitely small, definitely intimate, and nothing too crazy, but that's definitely what's been on my mind these past couple of weeks. So very stressful. But all in all, it's been a very good week for me. Very focused, very productive, and looking forward for the weeks ahead. Continuing to grow as a content creator, as an influencer, and as a podcaster as well, and balancing all of my platforms, making sure I'm being active and consistent as much as possible. I'm only one person, so being someone that has so many channels and I have 2 different platforms, it can get a little bit overwhelming, but I'm just taking it a day at a time. So that was a quick little recap. So without further ado, we're going to get straight into today's episode. So the inspiration for today's episode actually stems from day-to-day life, communicating, hearing other people's scenarios when it comes to communication. But most importantly, being on the phone with my friends, especially my best friend, not knowing how to communicate, people not being very expressive and telling each other what's on their mind, just all in all communication. And, I could definitely see the frustration in my best friend and everybody just in general. I just know communication is such a big thing. And I feel like it's something that is not really talked about enough. So, I definitely want to make today's episode on communication to help you guys to further build, your communication skills. I'm just going to start off by saying every episode, I'm always going to say this, I make episodes based on my personal experience. I'm not a professional. So, everything that I'm saying to you guys, definitely take it with a grain of salt. I'm still learning and I'm human and I'm not going to get everything perfect. My communication skills is definitely not 100%. And, we all have our days, but I'm very excited to talk about this because I know this is something that's going to be very beneficial in your life. All right, without further ado, let's get straight into today's episode. So the first thing I want to talk about is why it's important to have healthy communication skills. Without stating the obvious, having good communication skills really depicts who you are as a person. It really tells who you are, and it also shows your maturity level as well. Why it's important to have communication skills is so you can become a better communicator, a better person. It helps you overcome challenging situations in your day-to-day life, and it also helps strengthen your relationships, whether that's people in your workplace, relationships in love, or even just your relationship with your friends. It also builds emotional intelligence. And you're probably like, emotional intelligence? And I'm going to explain why. Communication is such a big part in our day-to-day life. And I feel like we're not really aware of it as much. Of course, we're going to be talking to people and there's certain friend groups or certain people that you may talk to a certain way. The way you talk to your friends is not going to be the way that you talk to your manager. There's certain boundaries when it comes to that, comes to communication. The way you talk to your mom is not going to be the way you talk to your friends. So on. Why it's important to build communication skills is because when you build strong and healthy communication skills, you strengthen the relationships around you. Again, whether that's a lover, friend, business partner, whatever the case may be, it helps people feel kind of connected with you in a way. And I know a lot of people don't probably view it it that way, but when you really think down to communication and, you know, how you express yourself as a person, it really tells a lot about yourself. Now that we know the importance to have healthy communication skills, we're going to go into how to build communication skills. The first thing when it comes to starting and building your communication skills is being a great listener. To be a great communicator, you have to be a great listener. And what that means is a lot of the times when, you know, we're talking to a person, or whether we're having an A and B conversation, A, B, or C conversation, it's really important to listen to what the person is saying. The less you talk, the more you learn. And I hear that all the time, because you'll be surprised. The less you talk, the more you find out about a person. And I don't know if you guys know this or like heard about this before, but there's a saying that like, if you stop talking and you really let people talk, there's so much that you can learn about a person just by not talking. If you have a conversation with somebody and they're just rambling, you find out so many things that you probably didn't even ask, basically going on a tangent. And it's just like, I didn't even mean to say that, you know, and I'm sure you guys heard that a lot. So like less talking and more listening. You'll be surprised again, how much you will learn about a person and how much that would really go far in the conversation that you're having with a person, and how much it means to a person when you listen to them and not talk over them. You know what I mean? Because that's a big thing when it comes to relationships in general. So for me, for example, when it comes to me and my boyfriend, a lot of times like we have like Sunday talks, or like we have like these conversations where, you know, we talk about the things that like played out in our relationships, how we could do better. And especially when it comes to communication, you know, we definitely have worked a lot when it comes to our communication and our relationship in general. But speaking on communication, for me, I have a hard time feeling like I'm being heard a lot of the times. And I have told that to my partner. I'm like, you know, I would like you to make me feel like, you know, you're listening to me or that you're hearing me. A number one tip that I can say when it comes to relationships and communicating and making your partner feel validated and feeling heard is basically repeating back what they said and, you know, apologizing for it. Even if you don't feel like it's, you know, your fault or you feel like you did any wrongdoing. Let's say, for example, I felt like my boyfriend was ignoring me while he was with his friends, right? I'll communicate that. The number one thing is acknowledging how you feel, figuring out what are you really feeling, and communicating that to your partner. I would be like, hey babe, I felt ignored by you while you were with your friends. I know you probably didn't mean to intentionally, but I just felt like I was being disregarded. I felt like I was being ignored. So instead of responding and saying, oh no, I didn't do that, like, you know, I think you were just being more distant, instead of just being defensive and feeling like you did something wrong, it's not about really what you did wrong. It's really just being there for that person. A good response would be, oh, I'm sorry that, you know, you felt like I was ignoring you. I probably just got caught in the moment and really didn't realize that, you know, I was ignoring you. I tried to include you as much as possible, but maybe in my head, I probably wasn't doing the best job. So I apologize for making you feel that way. So you see how that response is different than, oh, well, I didn't feel like, you know, I was doing that. I didn't feel like I was ignoring you. Well, you were kind of being distant. Instead of responding in that way and being more empathetic and invalidating, you know, my feelings, that conversation can go a whole lot different. It can steer the conversation in a positive direction. It's important to validate the other person's feelings. Someone communicating with you, someone expressing to you how they feel, validate their feelings. And from there, use your best judgment on like, is me responding this way going to help this conversation? Whether it's like, you know, you're expressing yourself, or even if like the person is coming to vent to you, you know, use your best judgment and definitely listen more. And instead of talking, you're listening. It's really important when it comes to building really good communication skills. So the next thing I want to talk about is being aware of the other person's body language. I want to touch back on whoever you are talking to. It's important to understand the person's body language. For instance, if we're going to be talking about work, let's say you're helping a customer, you're ringing our customer up, right? And you're communicating in the best way that you can. You're asking them how their day was. Did they find everything okay? And let's say that person is just having a terrible day and they're kind of being very snappy at you. You peep that their body language is very like standoffish, very aggressive. It doesn't feel like they're trying to have a productive conversation with you or trying to engage in a conversation with you. So it's important to peep the signs when it comes to communicating with someone, to understand your body language. When you understand their body language and you understand your body language, it also helps dictate how the conversation would go. I am a beauty consultant and I work in a retail place. So I have to talk to customers constantly. I have to talk to people constantly. One thing I have to do at my job is definitely sell certain things, sell events and sell products. I'm the type of person that I don't like being pushy. I'm not a pushy seller. I will definitely mention it to you, but if you don't feel like buying it, I'm not going to pressure you into buying. I'm not going to like bombard you on all the great things this amazing product has to offer. When I come up to people, just introducing myself, I'll just be like, hi, like, how are you today? Are you finding everything that you're looking for? Some people don't even want to be bothered, and I'll feel that energy just by their body language. Like they'll just turn away, or they'll just kind of like cut me off and be like, oh no, I'm okay, thank you. So it's important to understand somebody's body language, because when you understand somebody's body language, it makes you feel whether or not the conversation is going to be inviting or there's not going to be a conversation at all. Especially also like feeling energy as well. I know a lot of people don't really understand what that means. For me, I'm an empath, so like I feel energy very heavily. Get a feel of the vibe. You'll get a feel of how this conversation will go. Let's say your partner's so angry, right? They're just doing things that doesn't make you feel like they're trying to have a productive conversation or even trying to express how they feel. So when you realize that, it makes you be aware of how to approach the conversation. Even if you don't want to be the person to approach the conversation or even start the conversation, it gets you a feel of whether or not like you should even engage in that conversation. The next thing I want to talk about is providing and receiving feedback. Every conversation that you have with a person, whether business, work, relationships, lovers, or friends, it's important to gain something from that conversation. When you gain something from the conversation and you provide feedback or you're receiving feedback in terms of your communication, it's important to help strengthen that skill. You know, one thing for me, I've noticed that I want to learn how to curse less and be more professional when I'm having conversations with anybody. You know, if I'm with my friends, you know, of course, it's just a place for me to be myself and to talk freely. But sometimes I catch myself talking as if I'm like not at work, cursing or using slang. So I want to be able to strengthen the skill of building a professional conversation when it comes to customers or in a workplace, and just being overall professional. Nobody really gave me this feedback, but I realized I kind of just gave myself this feedback, and I just realized, you know, when I'm having that conversation with my coworker, I apologize to myself a lot. I'm like, oh my God, or I apologize to my coworker and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't even mean to curse. But, you know, it's just being aware of how you talk to people. When people come to you and they say like, hey, I don't think it's appropriate for you to be cursing at the job. You know, I know like we're comfortable and everything like that, but like, I feel like it's not a good look and it's not very professional. Instead of being very defensive about it, you know, maybe you're right. Maybe you should just receive this info, and maybe you might not realize it now, but later on, it will help strengthen your communication. It will help in the long run to see why this was important in the first place. Yeah, so it's important again to provide and receive feedback. I gave you a work example. So in relationship, let's say again, you're expressing to your partner how you feel hurt by an action that they did. Of course, you're very in tune with your emotions and you're feeling very upset, very angry, very sad. And you're kind of talking in a way where it's just like you're reacting out of hurt. You're responding out of hurt. Your person is taking that chance to really listen to you and venting and expressing yourself. As you guys had a very good conversation, he'll be like, hey, I would just want to just bring something to your attention. And, you know, I don't want you to take it the wrong way. It's important to say, you know, I don't want you to take it the wrong way, because that's validating their feelings and making them feel like, you know, they didn't do anything wrong. So it's important to make the other person feel like they didn't do anything wrong. It will help both of you guys to feel comfortable enough to talk to each other. Let's say my partner goes, hey, you know, I know you were feeling very emotional and you were really hurt today, but I would just appreciate in the future that you kind of don't lash out at me so I can better be there for you, because it's hard for me to be there for you when I feel like I'm being attacked. It's important to express yourself and say, feel like I felt. Like, it's important to really emphasize those things, because when you emphasize how you feel, how you felt, or even whatever you're emphasizing, it's important to emphasize those things on how you feel, so the person can better, you know, listen to okay, he said he felt like I was attacking him. Oh, I didn't mean to make you feel attacked. I guess I was just really hurt. And, you know, I just didn't really know how to communicate or express that feeling to you. So it's important to be able to receive feedback, even when you don't understand it, or even if it doesn't really make you feel good in that moment. Just always have in your head that it's going to help you in the long run, and it's going to help strengthen your communication and help build that bond between you and that other person. So providing and receiving feedback is very important, whether it's you giving the feedback or you receiving the feedback. Just know that it's going to help you, and just take it in with a grain of salt, and just know that, hey, I may not understand this right now, but I know this is going to help me in the future. I know for me, I struggle with that sometimes when it comes to like getting feedback in terms of my communication. Because again, I am not the best when it comes to communicating at times, you know, really expressing myself. But I can say that, you know, within these past 2 years, I felt a lot more comfortable expressing my feelings and being able to communicate as healthy as I can to make my partner or any relationship that I have feel comfortable and safe enough that they can talk to me. We're not going to be the best at communicating and we're not going to be the best at expressing, but as long as we try and we're trying to actively build those habits to be a better communicator, that's all that matters. You're trying, and as long as you're also aware of the things that you're saying, the things that you're doing, and you try to prevent it later on, that's it. You should be proud of yourself. And I can say that I am very proud of myself. It's important to take the necessary steps so we can be the best that we can be. The next and last thing that I want to talk about is being aware of your audience. So like how I mentioned earlier, and how I want to be able to be aware of my surroundings and aware of how I communicate when it comes to my workplace, I definitely notice sometimes I get a little bit out of hand when it comes to communicating with my coworkers. I want to be aware of who I'm talking to, because sometimes when you're talking so freely at work and being very comfortable with the people that you're talking to, sometimes it can get in the way of your professional life. When you're aware of your audience, you know how to carry the conversation. Being very aware, listening, and peeping your surroundings, it will help build that communication skills as well, because you know when and where to talk a certain way. You know when and how to talk to certain people. You know how they say sometimes like, oh, I have to use my innocent voice in my workspace, but in reality you don't really act like that or talk like that in your personal life. That's an example of what I mean of being aware of your audience. So like, again, you're not going to talk to your friends how you talk to coworkers or customers at work. You know what I mean? Those are two different atmospheres and those are two different situations that you're in. And when you're aware of your audience, you know when to turn on and turn off how you are really. When you know how to turn on and off your personality, I'm going to say personality because I know a lot of the times when we're true to ourselves, we kind of get like a little bit like out of control and we kind of just aren't aware of like our surroundings. When you know when and where and how to talk to people in the environment that you're in, you made a conscious effort to be a good communicator, because now you're aware of where you are, how you're communicating, who you're communicating to, or when not to talk a certain way to certain people. Now you know this isn't a really good time or space for me to really be my true self. I need to be more professional. When you know when and where to be professional, you're building habits to being a great communicator. You're being aware of your surroundings. Try not to use curse words or slangs throughout the whole day, and watch how your communication just strengthens and how much you impress yourself by not using curse words. I don't know what it is, but it's just like building your vocabulary, strengthening your vocabulary, being more professional. You'll really notice how people treat you and how people approach you and how people perceive you. You'll be looked at as a person that's very mature, that has their life all together, and someone that like they look up to. And I know for me, like I see a lot of women that, have proper communication, have proper vocabulary, have very strong vocabulary words, and know when or when not to curse or not. You know what I mean? Like they know when to turn that side of them on. So that's something that I definitely want to work on. But yeah, I challenge you guys to go a whole day without cursing, without using slangs, and strengthen your vocabulary, because I'm telling you, people are going to look at you way differently. They're going to be like, whoa, okay. Like, so that's all I have for building communication skills. Before I end today's episode, we're definitely going to do a quick recap. The first thing is remembering why communication is important. It helps strengthen your relationship. It helps you progress in challenging situations. It helps you connect with people on a deeper level. Next, we're going to go into remembering the steps to starting and strengthening your communication skills. So the first one is being a good listener. Less talking and more listening. The more you listen, the more empathetic you are towards the other person, and the more you find out about the other person, and also connecting with that person on a deeper level. And remember, when you are in an argument with another person, pay attention to your defensiveness, less being more defensive and being more empathetic and being more apologetic. The next thing is being aware of the other person's body language. When you're aware of the other person's body language, it helps dictate how the conversation will go, and it will help how you will respond in the long run. The next thing is providing and receiving feedback. No matter where you are, no matter who is giving the feedback, whether it's you or the other person, remember that whether it's good or bad, if you're perceiving it in a different way, always remember, if you do not understand it now, you will understand it later. Don't try to figure it out right in that moment, but just know it will help you strengthen your communication skills and strengthen you as a person, and allow you to be aware of how you're speaking to people and how the other person feels when they're talking to you. That's very important. That's another thing that I want to touch, I want to really emphasize. When you're communicating with someone and they're providing you feedback by how they perceive perceive that conversation, it's important to listen to how they felt while talking to you, so you be more aware of how the other person is feeling and how you are talking. And it will also help you in the next conversation that you have with a person, like, okay, I don't want to come off as this way, so let me just try a different approach. And the last thing is being aware of your audience. So it's important to be aware of your surroundings, be aware of who you're talking to. If you're in a workplace, you wouldn't want to talk to your boss, your coworkers, or customers the way you would talk to your friends. When you're not aware of who you're talking to, it can help people perceive you in a different way that you don't really want to come off as. Remember how you want to come off to certain people. When you remember how you want to come off to certain people, it will be easier for you to have conversations with people, and people will be a lot more comfortable coming to you. Be aware of how you're talking to people, building your vocabulary, strengthening your vocabulary, strengthening those communication skills, strengthening those listening skills, and applying it to your workspace, your friendships, and your personal relationships, whether that's, again, lovers or friendships. And remember how you want to come off as. Remember who you want to come off as. When you have healthy communication skills, you have healthy relationships all around. I feel like those are the most important things when it comes to communication. So I hope this video helped you guys, and I hope you guys can use this in your day-to-day life and realize that, communication is really important in building the relationship that you want. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you turn on the notification bell on so you guys are notified every time that I post. Be sure to follow the Simply for Wellness on Instagram, and as well as the YouTube channel if you guys are listening on Spotify, and be sure to follow my personal page at Bridget.p on Instagram. I love you guys, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.